What is going on, Leafs Nation? Well, as promised, part one of the three-part NHL 2009 Draft Prognostications.
In every statistical category I can think of, New York Islanders. Now, there's a lot you can do with a first overall pick in a draft like this, but let's face it, the Islanders don't have a choice in the matter. The only franchise player they have gets that tag by virtue of his massive contract. I speak, of course, of the often injured and otherwise completely unreliable Rick DiPietro. We're talking about a franchise that plays in Nassau Coliseum, the only rink in the entire NHL that can make Mellon Arena shake its head in disgust. Their one bright young talent from last year, Kyle Okposo. While talented he is, he's never going to be confused with a 40-goal, 90-point superstar. This team is basically going to go in whatever direction Charles Wang and his little helper, Garth Snow, feel it's going to go in. Some people think, well, that can't be too bad, but keep in mind, this is a team that last year traded down twice in the first round, passing over players like Luke Schenn and Nikita Filatov, eventually settling on number 9 with Josh Bailey. I'm not saying Josh Bailey's not a good player, but he's no Luke Schenn, and he certainly isn't no Nikita Filatov. Let's face it, Islanders don't have a choice here. They have to take the one, the only, John Tavares, first overall, because their fans are screaming for it. They have to do it. So next we come to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, look, I'm just going to say it right now. If there's one team that could possibly screw this up, it is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Why could they screw it up? Because they could make a trade. That's why. You don't think it's going to happen? Alright, let's keep in mind here. In the last year alone, the Tampa Bay Lightning have traded out Dan Boyle, Matt Carle, Mark Recchi, Philip Kuba, Alexander Picard, Brad Lukovich, Steve Eminger, a 2010 second-round pick, and San Jose's first-round pick from this year, picking up in return Andre Mazaros, Steve Downey, Ty Wishart, Noah Welch, and Matt Lashoff. Right. Exactly. So, I'm not saying the Lightning are going to make a trade. However, let's not forget that they did move Brad Richards out of town on the pretense of freeing up cap space so they could keep Vincent Lecavalier, who is now rumored to be traded to the Los Angeles Kings for Jack Johnson and assorted other players and draft picks. Look, folks, it's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to keep the second overall pick. And if they do, they have to draft Victor Hedman because, my God, they have to fix that defense. If Steven Stamkos is ever going to become the star player we all think he's going to be, he needs somebody to get him the puck. If Hedman's the man for that job, he's going to the Lightning. Coming in third are the Colorado Avalanche, who make this ridiculously easy for me. Should he stay or should he go? It really doesn't matter with Joe Sakic. They need to get somebody in to replace him, and they have got to get the pressure off of Paul Stastny and Wojciech Wolski, who are two great young players, but you can't just have two players running your offense. It just doesn't work. They're going to go with the kid who many thought might have even usurped John Tavares for the first overall pick. That is Matt Duchene. He can do it all. He may end up actually being the best player in this draft. So that's who I'm saying is going third overall. Picking fourth overall are the Atlanta Thrashers, and what could very well be the defining draft of this franchise. They need, right now, more than anything else, a reason for Ilya Kovalchuk to not go UFA next summer. That reason is Evander Kane, a playmaking and goal-scoring center who can finally give Kovalchuk a line mate that he has been sorely lacking for a long time. We all know what Kovalchuk can do pretty much on his own. Now imagine getting a center who can skate, who can go in the dirty zones and get loose pucks, and who can score himself. This is the big selling point for the Thrashers, and if worst comes to worst, that Kovalchuk does leave, they at very least have another franchise player to try and build around. Forget the fact that some people have ranked Jared Cohen ahead of him. Evander Kane is going to the Thrashers. Coming up next are the Los Angeles Kings, and I am going to call it right now, folks. If there's going to be a trade in the first round, this is the likely position, and it will likely be between the Kings and the Coyotes. Yes, it's only one draft position, but the Coyotes really need a defenseman. Jared Cohen is a very tempting target for the Coyotes, and I'm saying that they're going to make this trade because the Kings have got to move Jack Johnson. He wants way too much money for a player his age. The Kings cannot afford to keep him. They might just decide to trade him for whatever they can get and draft Jared Cohen to replace him at a cheaper price. I don't think the Coyotes are going to let that go. I'm calling a trade, but if it doesn't happen, I'm saying the LA Kings are going to take Jared Cohen. So assuming, of course, that the trade didn't happen, then the next pick belongs to those Phoenix Coyotes. And if the Kings did, in fact, take Jared Cohen, some people would think, well, where does that leave the Coyotes? Well, actually, they still have some options available because the question of Shane Doan's future is always in doubt here. Nobody's sure what he's going to do and whether or not he actually wants to stick it out with Phoenix anymore. He might decide it's time to leave town. If that's the case, the Coyotes have got to strike while the iron is hot, and that iron is, of course, Braden Shen, who a lot of people are comparing to Mike Richards, which is why he is ranked so high, because he has all of those abilities. 25 to 30 goals, strong on the faceoff, strong in his own end, power play, penalty kill, you name it, he can do it. A good all-around player, much in the same vein as Shane Doan was. They have got to take this guy if they're going to be moving forward without Doan. I'm saying the Coyotes are taking Braden Shen. And coming in at number 7, of course, are the Toronto Maple Leafs. Some people think the options are getting limited. No, because there's still one big option available at 6'1" and playing on left wing, a position we sorely need in Toronto, Magnus Paajarvi-Svensson. This is one of the youngest players to have ever played in the Swedish Elite League. The scouts cannot stop talking about his playmaking ability and the fact that once he really learns to get driving to the net with his speed and his puck handling abilities, he will not only score goals, but he will draw penalties. I'm saying Toronto is foolish to pass on this guy. Magnus Paajarvi-Svensson will be the next great Swedish player to don the blue and white in Toronto. Coming in at number 8 are the Dallas Stars, and geez, just about everything that could go wrong for this team went wrong for them this year. Fortunately, they are going to be better for it. There are some key components to the team that desperately need to be revamped. Obviously, they're looking at changing the goaltending situation. They're chasing after Gustafsson, and I think the Marty Turco experiment is over in Dallas. But more importantly, Sergei Zubov, they've got to get a replacement for this guy, and number 8 overall does give them some options. The best one being David Rundblad from Sweden, an offensive defenseman, going to take him a few years to really grow into the North American game, but once he does, he is really going to make a serious impact on the Dallas Stars, a team that needs offense and is going to need it from the blue line in the coming years. David Rundblad to the Stars.
Coming in at number 9, the Ottawa Senators. And, wow. You know, just when you think it couldn't get any worse for this team, Danny Heatley suddenly wants out of town, and they've got to figure out what the heck is going to go on there with the size of his contract, the fact they didn't have a very strong year, and that he apparently has a problem with coaches who ask him to play defense and, you know, forecheck. Well, anyways, with that in mind, the Senators, everybody likes to talk about secondary scoring with this team. The simple fact of the matter is they're not going to take a center. They can't afford another center, not with Mike Fisher's giant contract on the books. They're going to need a winger, especially with Daniel Alfredsson getting older. Jordan Schroeder out of Prior Lake, Minnesota, played for Team USA in the World Juniors. He's a right wing, not the biggest kid in the world, but he's got talent. He's an offensive threat. He's something that Ottawa's going to need when Heatley is inevitably traded and when Alfredsson starts to slow down, I'm saying Jordan Schroeder